Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. So y'all can see it's actually on a Tuesday today. Not back to Tuesdays on a regular yet, but today is Tuesday I had available, so I decided to jump on here and do a program that I've been wanting to do for a minute, and that is about arthritis, since there are so many people that deal with joint pains on a regular basis. Had a few conversations with a few people over the last few weeks and wanted to make sure I gave a little information that you all can use to start helping yourselves to heal your own problems. So we're going to get into a good show today. We got a mainstream minute, and then we're going to talk about, of course, your joints, and then we're going to, of course, get into any question that you all may have. Cheryl X, thank you for coming in. Alilo, I see you. Thank you for coming in. So let's ask for the Creator to give us an open mind today to be open to gather information and also have the desire and the will to use that for your benefit. And then we ask for me to have the grace of freeing me from my own ego, my own arrogance, allowing me to be a free vessel for your benefit so that you can get the type of information that is worthy of your ears. So without further delay, let's get straight to the mainstream minute. Of course, as I have talked to you all before, there are always articles in all health sites about losing weight because America has such a weight issue. So there you see one of the early articles in the latest MSN Health articles. I started the keto diet after my third pregnancy and lost 45 pounds. And in the article, the lady is talking about, of course, being a mother, having children, gaining weight, and then the struggles of, that reality, and then going on this keto diet and losing this weight. And here's another one. She lost 100 pounds on the keto diet and eased her PCOS. So for those who don't know, PCOS is polycystic ovary disease. I'm sorry, the S stands for syndrome. Sometimes some people call it disease, some people call it syndrome. But anyway, polycystic ovary problems are when a woman is overweight and she is producing excessive estrogen in her body over the normal amount. A lot of people don't understand that even though a woman has estrogen in her body, the estrogen levels are supposed to be at a certain level. And when they go above levels of normal estrogen, you can cause a lot of problems in the body. Similar, and I shouldn't say similar, different to if a man gets excessive estrogen levels, he starts becoming more female. But when a woman develops more estrogen, she starts beginning to have more masculine features. So polycystic ovary disease is when the estrogen levels are so high, cause a lot of problems in the body, and a woman starts making cysts of her ovarian eggs because they're not being released correctly. So she winds up with a lot of these eggs that aren't being released and coming out in her cycle, and so they stay up in the ovary and cause these cysts that can cause a lot of pain. They can cause the ovaries get real big. I just wanted to spend a little time talking about what polycystic ovary disease is, but the point that I'm getting to today is not necessarily about PCOS. It is more about, having a mind for reading and getting behind what is being portrayed to the public. So here it is that this woman, in her story, she just wanted to lose weight, so she got on this keto diet to lose weight. But the interesting thing about this that a lot of people may not necessarily read into is that this woman lost 100 pounds, but it says, and eased her PCOS. Well, that's a little slick term, eased. The reality is if you ease something, that means you're going in the direction of solving the problem. So of course, it is against the pretty much the mandate of the print and news agencies to use any type of words like heal, solve, cure, solution. They don't allow the news media to use those type of words. Why? Because that would empower the people. So that's why they say, and eased her PCOS. You don't ease PCOS. You have it. It's getting worse or it's getting better going towards being solved. And so that really is kind of a, something that I just wanted to point out to you all. Number one, a lot of people are talking about the keto diet. There's been the vegan craze for at least the last 10 to 15 years. And now it's starting to go into the keto craze. And so I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking to you all about the reality of the keto diet, because I've discussed it before, but I just wanted to touch on it again because it's so prevalent and becoming so much more prevalent. You know, I actually was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday who was working on solving some of his problems, and he went out and bought some bone broth and bought, you know, this so-called very lean chicken, and he's eating that, but he's still eating 3 meals a day. And so I told him, I said, well, you know, the body doesn't go into a keto state with eating food. And that's the misconception that a lot of people have. Well, if I go buy this bone broth, if I go buy these organ meats, if I go buy more fatty food, then I'm going to allow myself to go into a ketone state. And that's just not the truth. That is a big misconception. So all of these people that are out here trying to promote people eating certain type of foods in order for your body to start making ketones, they just don't have a complete understanding of what happens when the body makes ketones. So again, briefly, the body's major fuel source is sugar, glucose. Whether you eat fructose, sucrose, lactose, any other type of product that ends with an OSE, that is a sugar in the human body. What we try to do in the body is break that down to glucose, which is a solitary sugar. That's what the brain uses for for fuel. That's what the muscles use for fuel. That's what all of the organs use to keep functioning every day. So when you don't have sugar available for the brain, for the muscle, or the organs to use, then the liver has to produce the fuel for the body. So let's just use a common example, and let's say that we have a car, right? You have a car that is like some of these cars that they make these days where it's gasoline and electric. So you fill your car up and you driving from, let's say, Chicago to California. You're not going to make it on one tank, but you get out there and you hit the road and you run out of money, and then you run out of gas, but the electric system starts kicking in when you run out of gas. That is the way the body works. The sugar would be like filling up your fuel tank. That is the normal fuel that the body uses every day for all its functioning. So when you run out of the normal fuel, then you have a secondary energy system that kicks in, and that's the liver making ketones. The only time the liver starts making ketones is when the body doesn't have an influx of food, an influx of energy, an influx of either fat, sugar, or protein that it can make sugar with, and that way the body goes into this, okay, well, I got to make this alternative fuel, so let me make these ketones. You can't do that by eating 3 meals a day. You can't do that by eating more than likely 2 meals a day. There's too much that we're bringing in for the body to use. Your body goes into a ketone state when you have long periods in between eating. So if you're fasting for a whole day, or if you eat early in the morning and then you wait till a long time in the evening, or if you eat once today and then you eat once tomorrow, that's when your body goes into ketones. So I just wanted to clear that up. I really don't want you all falling into a lot of these tricks where these people are trying to make you think that you have to go to a store and buy particular foods and you have to do all of these particular, no. The only thing you need to do to make sure that your body is in a ketotic state, and understand that when you hear the word ketone, you hear the word ketosis, you hear the word ketotic, because you hear me jumping back and forth from all of those words mean the same thing. It means that the liver is producing the fuel because the body doesn't have readily available sugar at the moment for it to use as fuel. And that is the most important thing to understand about this, is that when the body is in the ketotic state, when the body is making ketones, that's when the recovery, that's when the healing is at its best. The body heals at its greatest capacity when we are producing ketones. So the key to that is adults, not children younger than 16, but 16 and above. Fasting is the best way to get your body in a ketone state, and that will allow you to not only lose weight, but it will also help you heal. Okay? So I hope I was clear with that. Y'all let me know if you have any questions. Seer, Hassan, let me know if I said your name correctly. I apologize if I messed up your name. You say ASA, what about sciatic? I'm going to get to that. We're going to talk about sciatic in the program today. So thank you for coming in. And let's go ahead and get started. Today, of course, we're getting into joint pain. And before I jump into the subject, I want to just let everybody know that I will be putting this on YouTube probably within the next couple of days. But what I really want you all to do is please go to my YouTube and sign up on my YouTube, because that will allow me to continue to do programs like this live on YouTube. Right now I can't do that because I don't have 1,000 followers on YouTube. So follow me on YouTube so I can do these type of programs on YouTube as well. But this is just a quick slide to show the different type of joints that we have in our bodies. It's not necessary for you all to understand all the names of these different type of joints, but I just want to go through them pretty quickly. If you think about the vertebrae, which we're looking at right here, this joint right here moves, and so does this joint. So if you all think about, if you were to stand up right now and try to bend and touch your toes, you would be moving this bone here in that direction if we're in the lower spine, and this one wouldn't be moving. So this space right here would get bigger, and this space right here would get bigger. And so this is one type of joint. And you got joints. I don't know if a lot of people have maybe not have seen a picture of what the wrist looks like, but the wrist has these two large bones that go all the way to the elbow, and then we have 10 bones right here in between these bones and the hand bones, which represent the wrist. And that's why a lot of times if you fracture a wrist bone, there's not really much we can do. You just really have to rest it. But anyway, it's just showing the way that these bones move against each other. It's really kind of like a lock and socket type of joint. And then if we move to the knee joint, and let me just really say this pretty quickly. In between all of these joints, if any of you have ever eaten chicken, if you've eaten the chicken like a drumstick, and you get to the end of that drumstick, or you eat a chicken wing and you break the wing apart, the part that we call gristle is what is the cartilage in a human. It's the same thing. We just call it gristle in a chicken. So this substance that's in between the two bones is called the cartilage, and that's in every joint. But you notice how this is kind of like a rotation joint, not sideways, but just forward and back. That's your knee joint. This here is discussing the wrist, and so you know how you can put your forearm on a table and you can turn your hand upside down and back forward. So that's kind of the depiction of that joint. We have the joint that probably does the most movement in the body, and that would be the shoulder joint. And you know, some people will call this a ball and socket. But a lot of you have probably heard people mention, you know, I have a rotator cuff injury. Well, that's what type of joint this is a rotation joint. You can move your arm in just about every direction, up, down, back, forward, twist it. And so this will be the most mobile joint that we have in the body, and that will be the shoulder joint. And then, of course, here it's talking about the way that the head moves on top of the spine. So that's kind of a rotation movement, but you really don't have a lot of front and back movement between the skull and that first occipital. So I just wanted to kind of point out the different type of joints that we have in our body, and just so you can kind of see some pictures and kind of get some of those things in your mind, and then we'll kind of move on to the other type of joints. Now, the first thing I want to get to is this picture here of, you know, if you look at that person right there, when I looked at that, the first thing that came to my mind is a person walking down the steps. But that also could be somebody like playing some type of sport. You know, and actually that's what it is. I'm tripping. That's a soccer ball right there, right? Soccer ball, and they're going to kick the ball. But the other things that I was thinking about as I was looking at the imagery of the body is like a person walking down the steps, or a person that would be ice skating or roller skating or something of that nature. And if you just look at, you know, thinking about any of those different type of movements, you realize that there's a hip movement going on, there's knee movement going on, and there's ankle movement going on. But think about it. The entire weight of the body is on that ankle. Little less on the knee, little less on the hip. But there's a lot of torque and a lot of weight and a lot of force that's going in these different joints that we have in the body. And that's why it's so important for them to be healthy, because when you have joint pain, you know that the first thing that happens to you is you're unable to be able to move correctly. So I know sometimes you all are in public like I am, and you look at people and you see them get up out the car and it takes them about 30, 40 steps before they look like they can walk all right. Or you see people walk across the street and they're bent over and they can't really straighten up. These are all people that are having joint problems. And so that's why I wanted to have this talk today, because I want to make sure that you all understand how to solve these problems so that you won't get caught up into taking medications or winding up getting surgeries. And before I go any further, I just want to say, again, this is not to discredit, demean, or try to belittle anybody. But I actually saw on Facebook, I think it was about a month ago, that a young lady that I went to medical school with had hip surgery. She had a hip replacement surgery. And so she couldn't be, I mean, at most maybe 2-3 years older than me. And when I saw her post that, I was in awe. But it also justifies the things that I say all the time to you all. And again, this is not trying to put her down. This is not personal. It's not saying anything against her. I'm just talking to you all and trying to help empower you, that you have to be very aware of the information that you're following, the information that you're listening to, and the sources of your information. Why? Because if this young lady, who isn't much older than me, everybody would consider us the same age, if she has wound up having to go on a table and having to get a hip replacement surgery, how can she help you stop that problem? I mean, that's a question that each of you have to ask. And so, you know, I don't come on here to brag. I don't come in here to boast. I work hard on my health. And at this point, I have no medical problems. I doubt very seriously that there'll be any time soon where I would even think to be having any type of surgery on any joint. And I'm talking about hundreds of more years. I know that might sound crazy to some of you all, but literally, I mean, I work out 2 or 3 times a week. I don't have any joint pains, no problems. And again, this is not to put her down. This is just to talk about the reality of the fact that if she is a physician, she went to school and she learned the things that are supposed to help you, but she couldn't keep herself from winding on a table to have a major surgery like a hip surgery, which a lot of people don't even live through. A lot of people are never the same afterwards. Then the likelihood is that she can't help you not wind up there. So make sure you choose wisely and continue to do the work that you need to do to keep your health. So we've got a few comments. Ma Maria, wouldn't that decrease metabolism? And with decreased metabolism cause weight gain? I assume you are talking about the ketone diet and eating once a day or once every other day. And no, that wouldn't decrease metabolism. That's actually a very good question, because a lot of people believe that. But I think in general, the public's understanding of metabolism is warped because of the money-making corporations that always tie metabolism into eating. Metabolism is not directly associated with eating. Metabolism is associated with activity. The more activity you have, the more activity you do in your life, the more your body works. So now it's going to call for some food to feed what energy was just used. But eating to increase your metabolism is a misconception. That is not true. You exercise, you move, you activate your life, the things I'm telling you. Have a workout program, do some type of sports activity. But also, when you go to Walmart, don't park right next to the door. Don't be one of those people, when you're at the grocery store, you're sitting in the middle of the parking lot for an hour until somebody comes out and moves out of the first parking slot. Go park as far away as you can and walk to the grocery store, and walk in the grocery store, walk into Walmart, walk wherever you go. And all of that is part of activating your lifestyle. If you work on a 2nd or 3rd floor, why would you take the elevator? Take your time and walk up the steps. I'm sure some people don't want to be sweaty, so take your time. But walking up the steps is activating your lifestyle. Getting in the elevator, you're not doing any work. So that's what increases metabolism. Fasting and eating less meals does not decrease your metabolism as long as you stay active. what will happen if you stay active and decrease how much you eat is you will start to get back to the type of weight that's normal for yourself. So, Maria, please let me know if I answered the question and if I was accurate, and that is what you were asking. You also said, because body holding on to the weight due to not getting enough fuel. I hope I just answered that. Sear says, all good. Sag here. Okay, Sag here. So I got your name right this time. Okay. Sagir Hassan, thank you for coming in, my bro. Khaled, thank you for coming in. Shirley X says, thank you for this topic. My daughter has many complaints about joint pains in her knees and heels. Yeah, we're going to get all of that in a minute. Danny, thank you for coming in. Zambezi, thank you for coming in. Okay, so let's get back to these joints. Now we're here at the elbow joint. And the point that I want to make sure that we are clear on is that when you get to the large joints, every joint has what I just finished talking about. You see what it says right there, that articular cartilage. So cartilage is the aspect of that thick gristle, like I was talking about earlier, that covers the end of the bone. So you have, this is the elbow. So this is your humerus that goes from your elbow up to the shoulder, and this is the radius that goes towards your thumb, and this is the humerus ulna that goes towards your little finger. Okay, so you have cartilage on this side of it, at the end of that bone, and you have cartilage at the end of this bone that comes from the shoulder, right? And this, in here where it says joint capsule, that is fluid. You literally have a jelly-like substance in between all of your joints. So in your shoulder, in your elbow, and you even have it in your hands and your wrists. It's just that those joints are so small, it's not big enough to see like it is in this joint. And so let's move over to a knee joint. This is the same thing. So in your not the humerus, your, dang, I forgot the name of that bone just that quick. But anyway, the bone down in your shin, and this would be your thigh bone. In between that and this, and then this will be the ligaments on the side, and you have the kneecap on the other side in the front. This is a large pocket of fluid that's in between those two bones. What do they serve as? It serves as a shock absorber. So when you have, like that picture we saw a little while ago, right? If this person is coming down the steps, or this person is ice skating, playing soccer, football, whatever it is, that fluid, as you're jumping up and down on that hip bone, jumping up and down on that knee bone, that fluid is keeping those bones from hitting together. It's no different than having a shock absorber in your car. You hit those bumps, and your car bounces a little bit, and then it stops. But you see the cars that drive down the street, and they don't have any good shocks, and they seem like they bounce for the next year. And so that's what keeps those bones from hitting together and causing more damage, is that fluid in there. It's thicker than water. It's thicker than the blood. But all the fluid in between here is coming from the blood. Jeffrey Andrews, thank you for coming in. You said joint pain in the shoulders. Have you covered it? Not yet, bro. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for the question. Okay, so, and then when we talk about, like I mentioned earlier, in your wrist bone, in your hand bones, in your toes, you have less ability to have fluid. And then this is an indication of your spine. You have your vertebral bodies, and then you have the disc. This is what, people always say, well, I went to my doctor and he said my disc slipped. Well, this is the shock absorber in between those bones. So like if you were to jump off, something and land on your legs, or you're playing sports and you jump up and shoot a basketball, land, these are absorbing the shock that these bones from the weight of your body are pushing towards each other. And then your spine is right through here. Let me show a picture of that so you all can see a little clearly of what your spine looks like. So if you notice there, these are those bones that I was just looking at, and these are those bones that were in the back, and then your spinal cord runs right in between there, and in between each one of these vertebral bodies from the spine, in this little hole right here, a nerve comes out. And so if a nerve comes out around your shoulder, it's to take care of the shoulder. If a nerve comes out down near your buttocks, it's going to take care of the leg and the feet and your private areas, your buttocks and that kind of area. I hope this makes sense. So we're talking about a shock absorber, the spine being protected by these vertebral bodies, and these bones in the back of the spine. This is actually, if you were to take your finger and rub in the middle of your, like if you put your hand behind your neck and you rub and you feel those little ridges, this is what you're feeling right here. You're feeling these bones in the back of your neck. And so all of that is to protect, help us move, help protect us. Just lost my doggone thing. What's going on? And so this is just a little more close-up of it, right? So you have, again, your vertebral body, and then you have this shock absorber. That would be considered your intervertebral disc. And then this right here is showing this area here. That little small ligament, which would be probably like thin like a penny or a nickel or something like that, but there's still fluid in there. See that little section of fluid? So you have this ligament still with a little bit of fluid. You wouldn't be able to stick a needle and get in that. It's that small, but it's still there. It's all over the body. So after saying that, I hope that you all are seeing that if I'm talking about all these different areas of the body, this would be up near, if you see my pointer up here, this would be up near the neck. This would be like in the chest area. This would be like your lower back going into like your buttocks area down in here. And all down in here would be your butt all the way down to like the end of your, like down all the way beneath your butt, right? All this would be there. So all of this area has to be protected because as you see, all these green things, all of these are the nerves that make up all the filling, all the nerve fibers, all the innervation. So when you move your toe, your brain had to send a message all the way down through this spine, down to the correct nerve that went down to the toe, which usually be a S5. You see the S5 right there, or the S4 would be some toes. And so this information has to go all through these nerves and go all the way down. Now, somebody just mentioned about sciatica. So let me go back to this other picture for a second and explain a little about what they mean when they say pinched nerves. So you just saw the picture where the spine is here, and each one of these holes, there's a nerve that comes out. So understand that if you go into the body right now, if I was to open up somebody and show you this in a real live person, there are muscles all across here and ligaments and tendons. You don't open up the body and see this. This would take a long time to scrape all that stuff away, to scrape all the blood and all the muscles and the tissues that are all around it. It would take a long time to get it clean like this. So this, what we're looking at, is theoretical. There are all kind of things around here when you open up the body. And so that nerve is coming out with a lot of ligaments and muscles and all kind of stuff around here. So when something is wrong with your back, if you have messed around and caused a problem with this and it's leaning, let's say like this is leaning towards the back and so this is bulging out, everything is in an exact position in the human body. There's no space in the human body where there's not something where it's supposed to be exactly placed in the right place. So when something pushes out against that nerve, they call it a pinched nerve because that something is pushing from here, is pushing up against the nerve, and there's no place for it to go, and that's what causes your pain. Now, when you look at the spine of a person, excuse me, it is the S vertebrae. You see here with the L, up here at the top, up here would be the C, the cervical. This is thoracic, all the T's. The L is your lumbar, and the S is your sacrum, or the sacral vertebrae. So your sciatic nerve is the largest nerve in the human body. And the sciatic nerve is a compilation of S2, 3, 4, and 5. All of these nerves right here come and join together, and then that nerve takes care of everything from the crease of your thigh all the way down to your toes. Now, why? I'm sure some people will say, well, why would God allow all these nerves to come together and make the biggest nerve? Because it's the longest traveling nerve. If you look at all of these sections up here, there's not very far for them to travel. The arm would be the longest up here, and so you have a section up in your neck and in your shoulders where there are some nerves that come together, and they are big to go and take it all the way to the fingers, but the leg is the longest part of the body away from the spine. And so that's why it's the largest nerve. So it's S2, 3, 4, that S2, S3, S4, and S5 that come together to produce a sciatic nerve, which takes information all the way down the leg. And sometimes when people have a problem in their lower back, they get inflammation in those ligaments and those tendons and those muscles and all those things that are around these nerves. It can irritate that nerve and cause you to have what we call a sciatic pain, which is a pain that usually starts in the butt. Why? Because some of these nerves innervate the butt area. But you can have pain start in your butt and go all the way down your leg. And a lot of people think there's something wrong with their butt and think something's wrong with their leg. No, there's something wrong in your lower back that's irritating those nerves and is causing inferred pain, or pain going down the nerve, but the pain is really here in the back. So we're going to talk about some solutions in a little bit, but I hope I answered your question. Sagir Hassan, let me know. You said L3. I'm not sure why you said that, so let me know. And then Jeffrey asked, can degenerative disc in the neck be cured? Absolutely. I'm going to talk about solutions in just a minute, because that's what you all are used to when it comes to the Ultimate Wellness Group, right? Talking about how we can solve the problem. So here would be another, just kind of a more visual example of what sciatic is. So see where that person's hand is? You're talking about probably the lower L down into the sacrum. The sacrum would be that little, what they call the tailbone. So that's that bone right down there that goes a little bit up into the L. Those are all the S sections, or the sacral sections of the spine. They come together, produce that nerve, and then that nerve goes down into the leg. Okay? So that is kind of where people usually put their hand. Oh, my back hurts, but the pain is going all the way down into my leg, and that is classic sciatic nerve pain. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Is L3 in the hip? Yes, L3. Well, actually, in the hip, you have a lot of different nerves that come together. Let me go back to this picture. So all of these, probably from the L3 all the way down to the S, is part of the hip, because the hip includes a lot of different things. You have, of course, female and male private organs that a lot of these L and S nerves are a part of. You have the buttocks, you have the feeling, you have the innervation, meaning to tell the muscles to move. All these different things are run by these nerves. And so the hip is innervated by a lot of different things depending on what exactly we're talking about. Like the hip joint might have a different nerve than the skin of the outside of the hip, or the skin of the buttocks area, or the skin of the high thigh. Those all areas may be similar, and sometimes they're different. There are different nerves that do all of that. So I hope this picture is making sense of what I'm saying. If not, ask me a couple of questions. I'll let you know. Latrice Muhammad says, first of all, thank you for coming in. That S1 nerve pain is no joke. Made my big toe feel. Yes, ma'am. I don't mean to laugh at you, my sister, but I'm laughing because you're bringing back some memories of some situations that I've had where people have literally thought that something is majorly wrong, and then once I help them understand what's going, like sitting and talking about things like this and giving people the opportunity to look at some pictures, a lot of times it gives them an understanding of what's going on, so they can start to understand why the solutions are going to be so great. So here we are back at the hand. I just wanted to show a little more specific of the hands of what I was talking about. See how small these joints are. You still have the articular cartilage in between both joints, but these joints are so much smaller than the knee, so much smaller than the shoulder, so much smaller than the hip joint, that there's not a lot of space for fluid. There is space in between these joints. It's just most of the time it's so little that we can't see it. So I'm hoping that at the end of me talking about these joints, I hope that there's something that is very glaring to you all. And what I'm going to do is, while I'm pulling up a picture of the shoulder joint to help my man Jeffrey, I want you all to give me some answers of what you think I'm talking about. What, since I've been talking, should be very glaring to everybody that is listening, that is obvious you should do if you have any joint pain? Come on now, give me some answers. Give me some answers. Okay, Stephanie Muhammad says, I had an ankle fracture over a year ago with internal fixation. Is there a procedure to determine if there's adequate fluid in my ankle joint? No, ma'am, I don't believe there is any specific test that we can do. But the thing that I would say is, I wouldn't be concerned about specifically knowing exactly how much fluid is in your joint, what I would like for you to concentrate on would be more making sure that it functions correctly. So if you had an ankle fracture and you had an internal fixation, that means that your fracture must have had some bones that were displaced. The reason why they had to go in and fixate them was because they were out of place and they didn't think they were going to heal correctly. So that means you have some screws in your ankle, more than likely. And the likelihood is that you will have some limitation, because once you put a screw in there, you're never going to be able to get that screw out. Well, I mean, you could pay to get it out, but typically they don't do surgeries to take the screws back out. So that means that there's going to be some limitation of your ability to move your ankle in the way that it would move before you fractured it. But what I always suggest to people that have any type of ankle injuries is to go to a neighborhood or go to a park that has the rounded curbs, so that you can walk on that curb and your ankle will be twisted and you walk on that. And that will be the stretching exercise that helps you get your ankle back to the best ability that you can to get it as flexible as you can. But also I have another suggestion for you coming in a minute. I'm going to get to some examples. I see one person gave the right answer. So I got two answers. I wonder who, can we get a couple more people tell me which person is correct? Latrice gave a wonderful answer and Danny gave a good answer. Which one of those is the one that I think should be glaringly, and you know what? I don't even think I can choose. I think you're both right. So let me go to the shoulder and then we're going to get to those solutions. Okay, so now we're at the shoulder and you all can see right here is your clavicle. That would be your scapula in your back, right? This is your humeral. That's the muscle, I mean, that's the bone that goes from your shoulder to your elbow. This would be your rotator cuff. Basically, the same thing I was talking about before. This is the gristle on the humerus, and then the gristle that comprises the shoulder joint. But this is sitting in between that scapula and the clavicle, and that makes the shoulder joint. There's fluid in between there right now. Sometimes when people come to see me and they have really bad joint pains, sometimes we can inject medication in there. We can inject like pain-killing medicine or steroids or anti-inflammatories in there to help decrease people's pain. Now, anytime you start getting these shots, you can't continue to do that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, because it can eventually deteriorate the joint and make it worse. But I will do that sometimes, a few times, to help people get to a point where they have a much better ability to be able to help their pain. And so you see right there, it says the bursa is a lubricating sac. And so, yes, Danny said hydrate with sea salt and water, and Latrice said exercise and stretch. And those actually are the solutions to the problem when it comes to any joint pain. So let's talk about a few things. I mentioned earlier, Ladina, thank you for coming in. Yes, hydration. Jeffrey, you said Danny, yes. So when you are trying to heal any of those joints that we just looked at, let's go back to the shoulder joint. I think everybody can just remember some of the pictures that we looked at before, right? But if you're thinking about this section in between the gristle, where the fluid is, that fluid is produced by the blood. I said it's a thick gel. It's thicker than water. It's thicker than blood. It's kind of like jelly. It's like a watery jelly. And sometimes when we go into people and we operate on them and we pull that fluid out of there, it sometimes can get very thick. But it's thick when a person is dehydrated. If a person is well hydrated, it's a little more watery. So yes, it's very important for you to hydrate yourself. And Danny says hydrate with sea salt and water. So for all of you who are active, or you are planning on helping your joint pain by becoming active, you have to hydrate with sea salt and water. You cannot drink things like vitamin water or Gatorade or Powerade or these type of sugary drinks, because that stuff will cause joint pains to be worse. In my experience, which is now 23 years in the medical field, the most common causes of joint pain from a dietary perspective is meat and high sugary foods, and mostly white sugar. I'm talking about bleached sugar, sugar that has all the nutrients taken out of it. When you buy donuts and candy and all that stuff in the grocery store that they try to tantalize you with when you're about to check out, those type of things with that fake sugar is going to cause joint damage, because it's going to get into your bloodstream after you absorb it from your food, and then it's going to get deposited into your joint, and it's horrible and very difficult for the joint to be able to get that stuff out of there. Like I said, we're talking about a thick gel, so it's going to take time to get poisons and toxins and waste material out of there, right? Every time you use a joint, every time you walk, you run, you exercise, you do yoga, you do push-ups, you do any type of exercise, your body has to go and send more fluid into these joint spaces, into this joint space right here, and then you have to extract that fluid back out with the toxins, with the waste material, with the byproducts of muscle use and joint use. I hope I'm making sense. And so when it comes to how you're going to solve a joint problem, the first thing is that you have to make sure that your dietary lifestyle is being improved. So most people that eat a lot of meat have a lot of joint pains. And a lot of people who are dehydrated have a lot of joint pain. So start there. If you're a big meat eater, you need to decrease the amount of meat that you eat. If you are not a big meat eater, that's good, but every person is different. One person may get arthritis in a lot of their joints because they're eating meat every day, but another person might get arthritis in their joints because they're eating meat twice a week. So those would be the things that I would start first. If you're eating meat on an everyday basis, you should cut back and start eating less meat. And then don't change anything else, just see what your joint pain looks like. If you're a person that doesn't eat a lot of meat, what I would do if I was you is improve your hydration and then see how your joints do. And again, if any of you that are on here have joint pain, you may be able to bear witness to what I'm saying, but a lot of times, even when people have joint pains, they will, when they first get out of the car, or first get out of the bed in the morning, or when they're at work and they're sitting for a long period of time, when you first get up, your joint is stiff, your joint is causing you some pain. But then when you get up and you start moving, what happens? That joint pain gets better. So understand, if you have joint pain, one of the keys to the solution is not to slow down, improve your exercise. It doesn't mean a rigorous exercise, it just means improve your activity. Walk is one of the best things that we can do, the best thing that we can do from an exercise perspective as we age, because that's something you can always do and you never have to stop doing. But you don't want to do exercises if you haven't been exercising for a long time. You don't want to go and get a very rigorous exercise routine. You want to take your time and start slow. So start with just a basic walking regimen where you get up and improve your activity. Go out to a park and walk on grass, or walk on dirt, or walk on a track like at some of these schools, because all of those surfaces are made and produced by God to help pull some of the stress out of the joint and into the ground or into the material that's in the track. If you are exercising in a gym where you're running on a treadmill, there's a little bit of rubber and a whole lot of metal, hard on joints. If you're running on concrete, if you're running inside of a gym, there's concrete under there. If you're running on the sidewalk, if you're running on asphalt, those surfaces are too hard for the knee, ankle, and hip joints, and you will wind up with some problems later on in life. Try to get the more natural surfaces, grass, and then of course if you're going to be exercising in grass, which is what I do, I exercise at parks, and I either run on dirt or I run on grass. And yes, you do have to be careful for the landscape, make sure there are no holes so you break your ankles or injure another joint. But that's part of your exercise program, is to be aware of what you're doing. Make sure you're taking your time and learning the landscape of where you're going to exercise, learn where the problem areas are, or if it's a track and it's already smoothed out, then that's good. But make sure you're being aware of the fact that you don't want to go out and start an exercise program and injure yourself, and now you have pretty much gone backwards in the plan that you had, right? So to be careful, do some type of exercise, start off slow, build yourself up, Um, Make sure that the hydration is key. You know, I usually suggest to people 1 teaspoon of sea salt. You can put that in the bottle, or you can put that in your hand, put it in your mouth, follow it with water, or put it in, shake it up, and drink some more water after that. Try to keep your urine clear. There are videos that I've done on here, Facebook, and they're on my YouTube about hydration, so you can check those out. But those are the important things. Sagir says, what about agave? No, agave is a sweetener that comes from succulent plants. Succulent would be a plant that would be a little more watery than a cactus, right? So a cactus can live in the most dry climates, and a succulent would be something that would have to have a little more water than a cactus. And what they do is they take the leaves of some of these succulent plants and they extract some of the sweeteners out of there. And from my understanding, the process is so chemical based that I don't believe that agave nectar is a healthy sweetener. I believe you should stick with honey is the best. Raw sugar or turbinado would be the second best sweetener. And of course that has to be done in moderation. And then maple syrup from the right source, and blackstrap molasses from a good source would be 2 other sweeteners, but those would be the only 4 sweeteners that I would suggest. Stephanie Mom says, yes, sir, so hope that means I did something correct. Latrice says, so true. I noticed that when I ate vegetarian, I hurt much less. My chiropractor told me to stay hydrated as my disc showed dehydration. Yes, yes, absolutely. So there's a bearing witness. I didn't ask Latrice on some side information that you all didn't know to say this. She's bearing witness to the information that I have seen in my history of practicing medicine. And I'll tell you all a quick story. One day, when I had my practice in an office in the 3rd Ward area in Houston, the house that I was practicing in was probably about maybe about 200 feet from the street. This lady pulled up to the front of the office one day, and a lot of times, you know, the wonderful doctors at Meharry Medical College that taught me how to practice medicine always used to tell me, if you open your ear and open your eye and watch your patients, they will tell you everything that you need to know before they open their mouth. And so I used to watch a lot of people walk into the office to see if I could figure out what was going on with them before they even came in. And this lady took a couple of minutes just to get out of the car, and took another few minutes just to be able to walk from the curb of the street to the front door of the house where my practice was. And when she came in, she was on a walker with the help of her significant other, this man that was with her. Long story short, sat down, talked with her, and her diet was 80% meat. And the other 20% was potatoes and bread. She hardly ate vegetables, she hardly ate fruit. And so when she came to my office, when I tell you all, when you hear me say things on some of my programs that I experiment with people and I do research through people, this is what I mean. Because I'm not one of those scientists that's doing research to hurt you. I'm not doing research or experimentation to cause you more problems down the line. No, I'm doing things so that you can get better and you'll help me understand how my suggestion will or will not help you and other people. So I just told this lady, will you please just go 2 to 3 days a week and don't eat meat, and find just, I don't care what you eat, just eat something other than meat. And of course, she was in such pain, I did give her some medication. Lady came back in 2 weeks, got out the car, still wasn't walking like normal, but she did need a walker. She walked there herself, and it didn't take her near as long. And she was totally amazed at how much her pain decreased just by cutting down meat. So when I tell you all, as you have heard me on many of occasions say, that for the body's protein needs, you do not need animal flesh. That is 1000% true. It is not necessary for you to have animal products in order to get your protein. But that doesn't mean that the vegan lifestyle is good. That's not what I'm saying, because you do need animal products to get your vitamin D. Again, that's in other programs. I'm just talking about meat today. But when it comes to arthritis and diabetes, meat eating is the worst culprit in those 2 disease processes. So Latrice, thank you for that that testimony there about becoming a vegetarian and noticing that your joints hurt less. And then what your chiropractor said, yes, you know, there are x-rays, MRIs, CT scans, as you all know, that we can do on people sometimes, and there are ways that we can look at your bones and we can tell whether or not your bones are what we call desiccated, right? Now, some of you have bought a leather purse, a leather jacket, a leather wallet, leather something. You get the little packet in there that says, do not eat, right? That's silicone dioxide. That's a desiccant. What does that do? That dries out and keeps your leather from getting damaged by water. So when we look on x-rays, we can actually see sometimes where your bones are what we call desiccated, meaning that the water has been dried out and all the tissue looks bad because there's not enough water in it. So you have to make sure that you hydrate. Your body is 75% water. Every aspect of your body is much healthier when it is hydrated. And the only hydration that you need for your body is food and sea salt and water and drinking water. But I don't want you all to fall in the trap of these people talking about drink your water. That is not accurate information. That is a misconception. That's people speaking out of ignorance. You can't not drink your water. Eat your water. When you eat food that has water in it, like a tomato, like an orange, like other fruits like that, you are getting hydration. That fluid that you're getting from that food has a lot of nutrients in it. Look up the definition of hydration. Hydration doesn't mean water by itself. So it's important for you to drink water by itself, but it's also important for you to get hydrated. But because we live in a society where the foods have been depleted, and a lot of times we're not eating the best, it would be good for you to hydrate with sea salt and water a couple of times a week, because that's what I do to keep my joints healthy. And that's something that I learned from a book called The Body's Many Cries for Water, which is from this doctor named Dr. Batman Geldi, who was a doctor that was in an Iraqi prison and did a lot of research on water and how it helped a lot of people solve a lot of their problems. So you all let me know if I have answered some questions and given you a good understanding of why people develop arthritis. And actually, I want to show a couple of pictures of some evidence of arthritis so that you all can just have an image of what you want to not have your joints ever look like. Okay, so Job Bint-Shabazz says, how can you use molasses in food for better intake? To be honest with you, my sister, I would not be able to answer that question because I'm not the cook. But maybe somebody else on here could tell you. I know that my wife uses molasses when she makes certain types of dishes, but she definitely doesn't use it as much as she uses honey and sugar. But, there are some recipes, I guess, that call for molasses. And so I know molasses is good. I know molasses has a lot of nutrients in it from the research that I've done, but you tried to take me beyond my scope of expertise. And that's going into those that kitchen. And that's where I give so much credit to my wife, because she has helped me take the knowledge that I have of the human body and the knowledge and the wisdom that I've gained in years of practicing medicine, and she's helped me take that from the grocery store into the kitchen, putting it on the plate, and being able to help people manage how to get their eating habits to a place where it can help them heal. So here are some, thank you, Aja, I appreciate it. So there's an example of real bad rheumatoid arthritis, this picture right here. I would hate to see anybody get that way. That's very difficult to heal, very difficult for a person to manage. And you can see these big nodules on the actual knuckles. That's years and years of fibrosis and years of inflammation. And while I'm on that subject matter, you see here, this person is starting to get it. You notice that one right there? A lot different than that. But this right here is on the way there. These right here are early signs that this is going to happen. And this can all be prevented based on what I'm talking about. So here would be a good picture of what any arthritic joint would look like. Of course, this is what we just finished looking at a little while ago, right? These joints are the gristle or the cartilage, and then you have the fluid in between there. That looks like a very good joint. So years and years after we go not hydrated, running on concrete, eating bad food, we start breaking down this cartilage, and it gets to a place where you have what most of you heard before, bone on bone. Very painful. The joint is not well maintained, so the fluid doesn't stay in between it. There's no shock absorbing, so it hurts when you stand, it hurts when you move. And this would be degenerative, or like that picture I just showed, rheumatoid arthritis, where everything is just so damaged that you start getting a lot of inflammation and blood in here, and then that's going to calcify, and it's going to turn into those big knots, and you can't move, you can't do anything. But I want to just be very clear to all of us. You know, it's very common in the medical field these days that everybody's just talking bad about inflammation. Oh, inflammation, you don't want inflammation. That is horrible information. The inflammatory process, which I have talked about in some of my other programs, is the healing process. If any of you have ever cut yourself, scratched yourself, stuck yourself with something, or pulled a scab off, you see redness in that area. That is the inflammatory process. The inflammatory process is when the body has pain, has an injury, and it starts sending out messengers. It would be no different than if somebody was to come and try to do something to me right now, and I holler out, hey, somebody's trying to do something to me. The body does that. We had an injury. We've had an opening. We have some foreign bodies come in. We've had damage. So it sends out molecules, and then the bloodstream sends stuff to there. And then you have to open up what we call capillaries, and it's basically having like a delivery to your house. You know, all these things get delivered into your house. How does it get there? Through fluid. So anytime you have an injury, a problem in the body, more fluid goes to that area. Inflammation process. You have to send the fluid. You send all the cells. You send all the immune system cells that go and start fixing things. When you're fixing things, you get swelling because that fluid has to come in there with all that stuff in there that's going to help fix the problem. Hope that makes sense to you all. So inflammation is not a problem. The problem is when we have so many bad things in our body that when that blood flow comes, you're also sending all of that bad stuff out, the food you just finished eating, or the alcohol you just drank, or the Gatorade and all that poisonous in there, or the fake vitamins that you're taking, or the medication that has been proven. There was a study about 5 or 6 years ago that came out that clindamycin, the antibiotic clindamycin, was found in athletes' Achilles heel. Sure, some of you are like, how could that happen? The things that we eat are absorbed, put into the bloodstream, and go all over the body. If you have an infection in your tooth and the doctor gives you clindamycin, it's not just going to go to the tooth. It's going to be from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. And so I'm mentioning that because you have to understand that everything you eat, everything you drink, everything you take, everything you breathe is bringing things in that wind up all over the body. So the more detoxified you have, the better food you eat. When you go through these programs, I've done a program on what's in your kitchen. I've done a program on what's in your bathroom, talking about all the possible toxins that you could be putting in from your kitchen, from your bathroom, from your lotion, from your toothpaste, from your soap. See, the reason why I consider myself a holistic doctor is because I believe I'm trying to give you that type of information that could help you, like we started the program off today. They don't want you as the public hearing words like cure, solution, solving medical problems. They don't want you all hearing those type of buzzwords because that's going to take away from some of the biggest money-making systems that they have in this country. Imagine if everybody listened to me and started solving their medical problems. What would happen to insurance companies? What would happen to pharmaceutical companies? What would happen to doctors and then the medical schools? A lot of money. A lot of money. So people staying sick is filling a lot of pockets. People drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, gambling, filling a lot of pockets. If we just started to clean up our activity, there will be a lot of billionaires that will be broke before the end of the year. But back to the subject. We have to make sure that what we are doing is doing the best we can to help ourselves. And so the point that I'm making is that the more detoxified your body is, the more fine-tuned your inflammation process is going to be. So when you do go out and you're doing your exercise program and you accidentally twist your ankle, like I do sometimes, a couple of days, not even sore anymore. Or if you're doing something in your backyard and you cut yourself, healed in 4 or 5 days. A couple of weeks, you don't even remember where you got cut or scraped. That's when your immune system is at its greatest ability. That's when your immune system has the ability to inflammation, fix, move on. But when inflammation goes somewhere because of all these toxins and all this lack of good things you're putting in your body, so your immune system is raggedy, you take a long time to heal it. You don't heal at all. So the inflammatory process becomes a chronic thing. Yeah, now it's going to cause you some serious problems, like the picture of that woman with that rheumatoid arthritis. So don't get yourself caught up in the word inflammation. Get yourself caught up in the daily activity that you can do. All right, we're just in the beginning of September. For some of you that have some medical problems or just joint issues that you want to try to work on, don't try to change 1,000 things in your life today. Start today and say, you know what, I'm just going to try to start drinking some more water. Or I'm just going to try to eat meat just 1 or 2 times less a week. And just watch how to take slow steps so that you can experiment with yourself. And then you can say to yourself, man, that's empowering. Now I know what to do. And sometimes all you have to do is just keep going further with what it is that you started with. And then start looking at what you are doing in your daily exercise and your eating and your personal care, when you take your shower, when you take, when you shave or when you put on your makeup or during your time of the month. What kind of products are you using that could potentially be filling your body with a lot of toxins? That's what my programs are about. That's not today's program, but all of my programs are to help you in those avenues. For those of you who are here for the first time, check out my other videos. There are plenty here on YouTube. If you're not following me on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram. I try to do a weekly thought-provoking post. I took a little time off for the last 3 weeks. I just needed a little time to readjust and get back motivated. But check them out. I'm on YouTube, The Ultimate Wellness Group. I need 1,000 subscribers, as I said earlier. Here on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram. All of them, The Ultimate Wellness Group. So continue to come back, continue to enjoy these programs, and continue to ask good questions, and let me know if there are any subject matters that you would like me to address. Jeffrey, what's the best way to detox? I actually did a whole program on that. If you don't mind, check out here on this channel on Facebook. There's one called Boosting Immunity and Energy at the Same Time. I talk about detoxification and that. And also on a lot of programs that I do. But if you don't get enough information, let me know, and we can definitely do another one coming up in the future. But that's the time for today. I thank you all for coming in and joining the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. Place where you can come get news that you can use. Remember to continue to work hard on your health, because in a society like we live in, good health is only gotten by those who work hard. So thank you again. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. And until next time, which will probably be a couple of Saturdays from now, take care of yourself.